Adesh Guruji.
Adis.
So here we are doing the 9th video in the series of The Art of Dying, the Gorakh Sabadi. And today we're doing verse 1. You've chosen the first verse.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so that's the first verse of the Gorakh Sabadi. It's a very beautiful verse, and I'm trying to sing it for you before we go into the description and the explanation of the verse. Na sūnyaṁ, sūnyaṁ na basatī, agam, agochara, aisā, gagana sikhara, mahiṁ, bālaka, bolai, tākā, dharahuge, kaisā, basatī na sūnyaṁ, sūnyaṁ na basatī, agam, agochara, aisā, gagana sikhara, bālaka, bolai, tākā, dharahuge, kaisā. The manifested world is not the void. The void is not unknown and the ungraspable, the summit of the sky. A child speaks. What name will you give? What name will you give? What name will you give? Thank you.
Thank you. So the Gorakh Sabadi opens with one of the most profound examples of this Twilight language we've been talking about from medieval Indian mystic poetry. And so this verse uses a lot of esoteric terminology from both Hatha Yoga and the Nāt tradition. And it contains even the foundational ideas in the Nāt Sampradaya that explores this paradoxical nature of ultimate reality. And I think it's interesting that, like these Mahasiddhas and Tantric Buddhists, that this view is very much non-dual. And Gautama Buddha lived about 1,500 years before Guru Gorakh, and yet he was considered to be the first yogi philosopher to see this non-dual view. And so it's, I guess, proof that, that the Buddhist view has in fact, endured thousands of years, through all the various Mahasiddhas into Gorakh, who's also a Mahasiddha. So this verse in particular points beyond dualism. You know, it states that the ultimate truth is neither the physically manifested world, the basatī, nor is it emptiness, sunyã. It occupies a unique realm outside of regular human perception and dualistic ideas. So I'm wondering if you could please guide us into this transcendental space.
Yes, it's a beautiful verse, and we can break it down slowly. So the first line of the verse itself, right, that is basatī sūnyaṁ, right, that is, it's saying the manifested world, right, is not the void. So, basatī sūnyaṁ, right? So here he is talking about the manifested world, right? And that manifested world is not the emptiness, right? That is the first phrase in that line. So here, the manifesting meaning something that has a form, a shape, and a name, right? Whereas the emptiness is something beyond the manifesting, right? So it's like the two extremes we have here, right? The world, the manifested, and the void, the emptiness. Right? That's what Gorakh talks about here, saying basatī, basatī meaning the dwelling, right? So it's also like we can say the basatī part, we can say nāva rupa, right? Giving it a name and a form. So that is manifesting, right? So you can see how Gorakh is trying to use this language here, especially to make us understand that what is the dwelling, that is the basatī, and what is the emptiness, right? So here you can see how he talks about this in this particular line, right? Basatī sūnyaṁ. And then as we go into the next one, that follows, sūnyaṁ na basatī, right? Sūnyaṁ na basatī. The void is not the manifested world again. So you can see this paradox in this verse, right? So here again, Gorakh is saying that sunyã na basatī, right? That is, the emptiness is not the dwelling, right? That is, the void is not the manifested world. So, basatī does not dwell in the void, right? That's what he means here. So it's a non-dual view of existence. So here the supreme reality, it cannot be reduced by any physical, right, populated world, that is the basatī, nor can it be dismissed, nor can it be done with, right, mere nothingness, just emptiness, or let's say the blank void, right, which is the sunyã. So here Gorakh is talking about the two extremes here, right? The world as one extreme and the non-dual world, right, of sunyata as the other extreme, right? So here the dual world and the non-dual world. So this is what he is talking about in this line.
So he kind of rejects both, I guess.
Yes, so here he is trying to explain this. He's saying like these are not the real things, right? Though they are the two realities we have, all right? But we need to understand them. So here Gorakh is saying like these are the two extremes, right? And then we have to actually withdraw ourselves, right? And be in the middle path, right? Have a balance of this.
So basically
energy.
he's just rejecting everything.
Yes, more or less, right? Because he is saying that, right? He's saying basatī na sūnyaṁ, sūnyaṁ na basatī, right? So it's neither of them. That's what he is talking about, right? And the same thing we can see the view right, of the opposite, the beyond the opposites, that we have to go beyond that. We got to go beyond the basatī, we have to go beyond the non-dualism, right? That's what he is meaning here. So he refuses to accept any kind of fixed, construction, conception, right? Any kind of fixed conceptual identity, right? So he denies all this, you see. He absolutely denies this by saying this. And also we can see this in the Mahasiddhas, right, of the Buddhist philosophy also. They have a very similar thought, which is very much like in equilibrium with the thought of Gorakhnath, that is of Sahaj, right? So there you can see like philosophers like Nagarjuna, right? He totally dismantles the theory here, right? The four conceptions, right? The four constructed positions, right? By simply, in a verse here, he says, it exists. It does not exist, right? And it both exists and it does not exist again, right? It neither exists nor does not exist, right? So this
is sort of Mahayana Buddhist
yes,
logic.
in the Mahayana
really
thought
famous for.
of Buddhism. So there we can find the similarity of what Gorakh is talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
So then, to summarize, basically Gorakh is saying that ultimate reality is neither the worldly manifestation basatī, nor is it emptiness, sunyata. So then, what is ultimate reality?
So here again Gorakh is pointing out to the ultimate reality, right? That transcends, right? Both this reality.
Both dualities.
Yes, the duality and the non-duality, right? So he is absolutely talking about the ultimate reality. And that in terms of Nath parampara, in the Nath tradition, right? We use the word alak to represent this particular state, the innate state, right? So that is, alak is the ultimate state, right? The state of being in that enlightenment, in that sahaj, as Gorakh puts it, right? That is absolute sahaj, having absolute awakened awareness and consciousness together, right? Of that will provide and open the curtain so that you will be able to see the innate self, right? The true nature, the consciousness. So here again, that's why the word alak is being used by the Nath, right?
Right, so simply existing in the dual or the non-dual will not lead a yogi to sahaj. I mean, you still have to awaken your consciousness.
That's what he's saying. You have to go beyond
get to
this.
the transcendent
Yes,
state.
that's what he's saying. You got to go beyond non-dualism and dualism, beyond it, right? Then only you will be able to have an awakened awareness, that you will be able to see the comfort of consciousness, right? Which will open the curtains for you so that you will have the absolute darshan of the true self that you are looking for, right?
So this alak, it can't be perceived, it's beyond observation, it's invisible, unknown to the ordinary mind. It just can't be perceived, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's beyond the
Gorakh's
mind,
view.
it's beyond the senses, right? Whatever the senses can perceive, right, there is a limit, right? But this is limitless. So the senses are not able to perceive
Contain
and
it,
contemplate
right.
and contain this particular energy that Gorakh is talking about,
Right.
right? So that is alak, the reality, absolutely, right? Everything the sense know is, whatever the sense like realizes and knows is always temporary, is always changing, right? It can be measured, it has a limit, right? So anything that can be observed, it's not the reality, right? because the reality does not have an observer, right? So the presence of observer and being observed, right, is not the reality. So there also we have to go beyond that, beyond being observed and
It's like
observing.
in Patanjali's path, it's shifting from dhyan to samadhi, where the observer and the
Yes, yes. That is,
subject
yes, like in
merge.
the Vedic rhymes, like we can find, like we says, the seer of seeing, right, cannot itself be seen. Right? So here you can see, like it cannot be seen. That means it's absolutely beyond our senses, beyond our perceptions, right? Beyond what the mind, beyond the mind, right? The mind is also not capable of perceiving this reality. So that is what he is talking about.
Does it have any qualities at all? Like, is it maybe stainless?
Yes, because alak is stainless, it's colorless, right? It does not have any taint on it, right? It is simply pure awareness, pure consciousness, the reality that is the innate.
Nothing can really adhere to it.
Yes, nothing can obscure it.
Right.
You know, it cannot. It is not tainted like the sky, right? Like the sky is never disturbed, right? Never changed by so many other things that move in the sky, like the clouds, the drones, the aeroplanes, and so many things. But still, the sky remains as it is, right? That is so still, right? So that's how it is, and we can see that the alak is also related, usually used with another word that is niranjan. Right. So usually you can hear sometimes not yogis, repeating and chanting these two words, alak niranjan. That means it's everything. That's
so
right?
niranjan is like without stain, without color.
Yes.
Pure.
Because nir anjan, these are two words coming together, right? And nir meaning something that is opposite. And then anjan meaning like kajal, right? Black.
Eyeliner, black
like
eyeliner.
the eyeliner, like the cosmetics, all the coverings that
Right.
people use, So that is anjan. But here the word is together, nir anjan. So that means it is against this color. So it is without any color, without any taste, any taint, right? It has no form. So that is what niranjan means.
So that's the deeper meaning, that nothing ever adheres to it.
Yes, nothing ever sticks to it like a mirror, right?
And it never changes. I mean, we're like, even
the sky.
with the Buddhist non-dual view,
Yes.
Everything is impermanent and in a state of change. But alak isn't.
It's the same thing there, right? Like implying the impermanence,
Right.
in Buddhism comes to the same thing here when we talk about alak niranjan,
Like
the ultimate
The
self.
dharmakaya.
Yes, that is the ultimate self, the conscious self, the innate being, the inner man.
Exactly.
Right?
The Buddha nature.
Yes, the Buddha nature, right? Very much. So that is how it has been used, like by the saints, right? Like not yogis, yeah. They say alak niranjan. So it has a very, very deep meaning here, right?
In terms of like, what does alak mean from the perspective of hatha yoga?
Yeah, because hatha yoga, the aim of hatha yoga also, your Gorakh says, is to achieve alak state, right? The state of being alak niranjan, right? So that is what hatha yoga emphasizes. That's why hatha yoga is designed like in such a way that slowly the seeker or the practitioner go through all the steps.
Like pratyahara, mudra, bandha, kundalini awakening, japa, and these are like the boats.
All this meditation.
You talked about the ships that lead to enlightenment.
Yes, like the rafts, right, to cross the ocean of samsara. Yes.
But then what eventually happens after, you've practiced all of these? There has to be like a sense of laya, disillusion.
Yes, so that is absolutely, that is as Gorakh is talking in the insight of his yogic experience, right? The
Right.
realization that he had through his experience, right? Like in the other verses we talked about how he saw, like how he dita, I saw it. So there's the realization of the ultimate reality, right? It cannot be, anyone cannot, nobody can trap that by a certain construction, right? Or any kind of conceptual identity, right? Or conceptual opposites, right? They will not be able to hold this.
Right.
Alak Niranjan,
But I guess like after the breath dissolves, the mantra dissolves, everything dissolves, even the meditator, only alak remains.
Yes, so that is what happens. So only the alak remains in the end when everything dissolves. Even the self has to dissolve,
Okay.
right? So the self also dissolves with it. So it's like, that is ultimately the consciousness goes to rest in its original state, in its original place, right? And then that consciousness is like defined or, it's been compared to Shiva, right? And then we have the emptiness, right? Which is defined as Kali. So here the Shiva goes to rest in the arms of Kali, right?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely in union, right?
So, just to recap, Gorakh's philosophy is beyond dualism and non-dualism.
Mhm.
And unlike the Buddha, he does not deny the self,
Mhm.
right? So he states that there is, in fact, an individual soul, a jivatma,
Mhm.
and a cosmic absolute, which is like you were just mentioning,
Mhm.
Shiva. Okay? Then sahaj, enlightenment or moksha, is achieved when the sakti, feminine energy, within the human body unites with this pure consciousness of Shiva
Yes.
at the crown of the head. This is
Right.
where we're going in this verse, right?
Yes. So that's what happens here, right? When the feminine energy, which is also symbolized as a kundalini, as a sleeping serpent, So the rising of the feminine energy, right? And then going up to the Sahasrara chakra, the passage here is very difficult. So, and it passes into the Sahasrara chakra and then it unites with the male energy that is Shiva, right? And then a child is born, right?
Okay, so, yeah,
yes,
all right.
yes, so
That's
the
the
child
next
is born
verse.
there,
Okay.
right? A child meaning the innocence, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'm just thinking more of, from a yogic realization, subtle energy perspective, right? Shunya becomes luminous, prana becomes steady. Like the yogi is no longer flipping between the void, the manifested world, and the void, right? The basatī and the sunyã through the practice.
Yes.
And, so that's where we end up analyzing the first two lines, right?
Yes, very much. Yeah. So then
yeah.
we come to the next part of the story, that is the verse that we are discussing here, right? Agam, agochara, aisā. Right? So here it is saying, it is like this, right? That is the unknown and the ungraspable, right? So here we are talking about the same thing, that is, it is the agam state, and it is the agochara state, right? So agam means that which is not known, unknown, and agochara means something that which we cannot hold, grasp, right? Which we cannot contain, right? Which is out of the reaches of the sense organs, right? Like even thinking,
Sure.
right? It cannot hold.
The mind just can't grasp it.
Yes, it is
The infinite.
agochara.
Right.
That's why it's agam agochara. The innate state is agam agochara. That is, it is in that state, right? That is the supreme truth. It's said to be agam agochara.
So it's not known and not graspable.
Yes. So like agochara, right? It is beyond the sense, beyond perceptions, beyond thought, beyond imagination, right?
So the only way we can reach this is through dita, right? Is through seeing
Scenes.
and through experiencing
Yes.
direct realization of the innate inner self.
Yes. So that's why he calls it agam agochara, right? That is the ultimate reality, right? Which cannot be conceptualized by the mind, right? It's beyond the mind, right? So that's why it only can be experienced, right? Through spiritual perceptions, like through having anubhuti, right? That is the experience that we have. Then only we can see the real self.
Okay, so then basically this unknowable absolute, the agam agochar, is the ultimate state of consciousness, and it's unreachable through the ordinary senses and through untamed thoughts, an
Yeah.
uncontrolled mind.
Yeah, that's what Gorakh tells us here, right? That is the reality that we're talking about is beyond any existence or any non-existence or in emptiness, right? It's beyond that. It's beyond manifestation. That's what Gorakh is talking about here, right? And that is what he is saying, the alak sense, the alak state, the awakened awareness, right? Of the presence of the mind, right? That is very important here, because the mind has to really stop. It has to go inward and it has to become still. And
Okay,
stop
so this
chattering.
is what the next one's about then, right? The summit of the sky.
Yeah, that's it. So that is what here he is talking about in these verses, right? So then we continue. That is agam agochara. We have already talked about that. And then the next part, the next line says, gagana sikhara, right? Gagana sikhara mahiṁ bālaka, right? So there in the summit of the sky is an innocent child. So here, the summit of the sky, what does it symbolize, right? It simply symbolizes our head, the skull, right? Which holds the brain. So here he is talking about that, right? And where there is the sahasra chakra, right? Out there. And that is the place where the birth of the child takes place, right? The child is born there, right? Gagana sikhara, that is at the summit of the sky, which is the consciousness, is present there, right? And that is the child, right? In the sky, right? So he is again talking about the inner self, right? The limitless expanse of consciousness, right? Like the sky is a metaphor for that, because the sky is open, it is boundless, and it is not stained, right? It is untainted. So that's why the summit of the sky is the child, and that child is in itself, right? And that child is speaking.
Okay, so in Hatha Yoga, the summit of the sky refers to the vast space of consciousness inside the skull. You know, specifically behind the Ajna chakra,
Yes.
this projection screen of the mind. and it extends up to the crown. So sikhara refers to the
Crown.
Sahasrara chakra,
Yes.
the 1,000-petal lotus
Yes.
on the crown of the head,
Yes.
also known as the Brahmaranda. And this is where the yogi experiences extreme bliss, awakened awareness during meditation, right?
Yes.
So this leads to the realization of the innate self or consciousness, sahaj.
Yeah.
So the very top of the Sushumna nadi, the central nadi, the central channel, is where Sakti, the feminine energy, ascends to unite with Shiva in the head, right? And through that union, this child speaks.
Yes. Very
Okay.
true. So there, that is what Gorakh is saying. A child speaks there, right? In that place that is the zenith of the sky. Right? So here he is talking about the child. The child is the inner self. Why he is saying child? Because child exposes innocence, right? The reality, the innate self, because the child is untainted
So that
at the
kind
time
of
of
means
the birth.
that it's there's no ego, right?
Yes.
Innocence and untainted is
Without any
associated
ego.
without
So that's
ego.
why he compares it with a child, right? Even Gorakh calls this in other verses of the
Right.
Sabdi, we can find him calling the same child as an old child, you see. So the irony there he exposes there. So here he also, because child speaks. So he's here using the Twilight language, that is the Sandhya Bhasa, right? And the child can symbolize so many things as we speak, right? It can be that unborn self that is within us, right? Which has no age, right? It is unborn and it is still young. It never grows old, right? Or it can also mean the enlightenment, the sahaj,
Right.
that we have attained, right? The child, that is the sahaj. The realized yogi is like a child, right? Why? Because he has achieved that enlightenment, that sahaj, that easy enlightenment that he had pursued, right? So here it can mean sahaj, or it can also mean the inner self, the inner guru, right? Which Gorakh says in verse 189 that we had talked about before. So there, the inner guru, or that is what the child is, the inner guru. It can mean that also, right? The voice of the child, right? It is through direct realization that the yogi awakens, right? So there, it is not necessary to have any acquired knowledge, because this is something different from knowledge. It is wisdom. It is innate wisdom that he is talking about, right? The innate self. And also the child can simply mean pure awakened awareness, right? When a yogi achieves that awareness, then he will get in tune with the consciousness, with his own self,
Yeah.
right? So it can mean that also, like, because the child is newborn, it is so innocent, it does not have any ego, so it can be exactly compared with the pure awakened consciousness. And if we go a little further, like in Jochin practice also, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It says like fresh. It describes that innate self, right? The awakened awareness as being very naturally present there. It's being-
Uncontrived.
yes, and contrived.
Unfabricated mind.
Yes, very much like a child. So there also you can see the, synonym, the equality, equal understanding, the same, view in the Jochin practice.
Okay, so why
Also.
does, the child speak?
Obviously, the child speaks because the child is the truth, right? That is the innate nature, ourself. So that truth speaks, before the mind can, contrive or speak anything, right? That is the innate nature. That's why the child speaks, because it is the truth, right? So when you realize that consciousness and see this child inside you, right, then you will be always speaking the truth and nothing else, right? So that's the child, because the child is very active and spontaneously. It reacts very spontaneous to a situation. A child does not think, straight away it will act. So it's so childlike, right? So if we look at ego, on the other hand, then the ego is always very much like controversial, arguing. And always having some kind of conflict, right? This kind of conflict right before it. So that's what the child speaks, right? That's why you can see, we can also recall Jesus for a while, right? In the Bible, Jesus says, like, we all have to become like little children to enter into the gates of the kingdom of heaven, right? Very similar. You got to become like a child. Becoming like a child means you got to understand that innate nature inside you, right? So it's just like a metaphor, right? A comparison of simplicity and egolessness in Jesus Christ, right? That is a parallel comparison we can find also as in Jesus
So
also.
the child is this untainted soul, also called the Atman.
Yes.
And it's the primordial sound.
Yes.
The unstruck mystical sound in the heart.
Yes.
The anahata.
Yes, the nāva. Right, so only the enlightened one who has seen, who has realized the sahaj can hear this eternal sound, right, which is unstruck. It's not made by any physical activity. It's an eternal sound that is created, right? And then hearing this sound is the sound that the child makes, right? The child speaks, that is the sound that the child is producing. It's a vibration, it has a frequency, right? It is intense, and then it can awaken the yogi into complete awareness and consciousness, right? So that's why the reason child speaks in that, sky, in the zenith of the sky, there is a child, and that child speaks.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Who is enlightened with experience.
Right as that child speaks, the mind dissolves into the sunyã, into this bliss.
Everything dissolves, even the self dissolves, everything dissolves, right? Now you are just the consciousness and nothing else, right? That realization. Yeah, so
Pure,
beautifully like Gorakh.
egoless form.
Yes. So
I'm just going to summarize this. So the child represents the pure, untainted consciousness, uncorrupted soul, or the newly awakened spiritual self. And in the Nat tradition, this awakened Kundalini energy is literally the bridge that connects our physical body to this paradoxical, transcendent state called alak, which is described in this verse. And without awakening the Kundalini, the inner sky, this gagana sikhara, remains completely closed, and the speaking child stays silent.
very much, because here you can see, the relationship here, right, brings us to a climax in this last verse where he says, tākā dharahuge kaisā, right? What name will you give that child?
Right.
So here Gorakh ends with a question, right? And this question itself, you can see that Gorakh is talking about the ultimate reality, right? So he's talking about the innate self, right? So here you can see that he says, like, the moment you give this child a name, right, then you are losing everything.
You limit it.
Yeah, because you are limiting it with a name, because the name limits, right, identifies, right, the form, right, and divides, right. So once you give it a name, then the limitless alak niranjan, the limitless consciousness. You can't bind it. You can't make limited.
Yeah.
No way.
It's nameless.
Yes, you can't. It is nameless, right? So that's why he says, he's asking you a question. Can you give him a name? What will you call it?
Exactly.
What will you call that child in the summit of the sky? What will you name him? Will you call him Shiva, right? Will you call him Buddha, or Sunyã, or Brahma, or Guru, or awareness, or consciousness? What do you want to call him? What name are you going to give him? He has no name. He's nameless, So here Gorakh so beautifully explains, what is namelessness, right? That means it's absolutely something that is out of our senses.
You
right?
cannot name
And even the mind cannot grasp it also, you see? So here, he speaks so beautifully. Even he describes this in verse 26, right? Die, O yogi, die. Right? Maro, yogi, maro. Maran hai mita, So beautifully explains this, right? So there also you can see. And then that is the death, he says, right? The death of the ego, right? And then when we come to this verse, that is number 1 verse here, and here this is like after the death, right? Now what are you going to do? What do you have, So the death of the ego or the false self, and then afterwards, the whole thing is beyond anything that is existing or non-existing, right? The two extremes there, right? And the whole thing is being symbolized by a child, right? The innate self, speaking in the summit of the sky, right? So it gives us a particular progression there, right? Like when we perceive something, perceive it ethically, right? Because that is the outer world you got to deal with, right? Absolutely. So you got to be ethical in your right ventures or your desires, whatever you have, because they are also attachments, right? So there, how he really explains this, right? It's really very beautiful, right? It simply, he says, go and kill the ego, destroy the ego, become egoless and nameless, you see, because the name gives you the ego, right? I am this, Yes, I'm the counselor, I'm the king. You see, all this. So there, you see, kill the ego, right? And realize what is namelessness, what is nameless, right? The identity, that true identity of yourself. That is what Gorakh is telling us to seek, right? That's possibilities.
So, just to summarize all of this line,
Yeah.
the child speaks.
Yeah.
It's so short, right?
Yes.
The child speaking without a physical mouth refers to the anahata
Yes.
nāva.
Unstruck.
The uncaused, unstruck cosmic sound in the heart. It's the inner vibration heard by yogis in deep meditation in samadhi.
Very true.
Because the vibration in the state of being exists before language, the verse asks, what name can you give it?
Yes.
And this really just highlights that, labels, religious identities, and words, they all fail to capture and understand the ultimate truth. And that is nameless reality,
Yes.
Sahaj, moksha.
Yes. Very
And
much.
I mean, just as a whole other tangent, which we'll get into another time, I mean, I just see like all this division with words and naming and the disruption it creates in the mind,
Yes.
and how it never lets us, in fact, move to the
It's a trap.
alak.
Yes.
We just create division. We can see it like Zionists.
Very much. You can see this all over.
The hatred, the emotions that are embedded in these words now through social media
so much.
that are constantly inundating
And
our existence
Yes.
and trying to divide us up
Yes,
and
true.
fight within our algorithms.
Yes, that all the distractions.
So, we have to just let that go.
Yes, we got to really get out from all this and, realize what that is and what that basatī is.
That it's ego.
Yes, there's so much ego in the basatī, right? So we got to release that and get out of it, because that is just an ego trip, right? It's not the real thing. It's not the real reality.
Conflict.
Yes, you're just causing
disagreement.
Yes, everywhere.
Disharmony.
Yes.
Disconnection.
Yes, because of all this ego that they have, of greed and want and power and fame and money, and everything, which distracts everything. That is real, right? Takes you away from the reality. And you are immersed in an illusion throughout your life if you don't realize the real state of what you are. This is just one birth you are getting in your lifetime. And this is the chance that you have as a human being to realize who you really are, right? And not become dumb fools and slaves, right? Like what they are creating today, like robots. Absolutely. Machine language only understanding today.
Kind of ripping out humanity, the heart, creativity.
It's killing, the machine language
the
is
soul.
Destroying the human qualities, all that, dissolving them. Yes, so it's really, outside world is really in a turmoil.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's very inspiring that this unstainable non-dualist view endures as the only path, the true path. So are there other saints that these verses, this verse in particular, inspired?
Yeah, there are many saints who have been in later times, like after Gorakhnath and all. Yeah, many saints have been inspired by Gorakh's teachings, And there has been many of them, and some very famous ones are like Kabir, the mystical poet of India, right? And he, in his book, the Bijak, which is known as the Bijak, where all the slogans, all the verses of Kabir's sayings are kept there. So there also you can see one of the Bijak is very much in connection with Gorakh's thought. Kabir also had a very similar thought about Sahaj. He was also one who was seeking Sahaj. So he also talks about Sahaj also. So here he talks about this thing which is similar with the verse, right? So he says, Jahan paunche guru ki bani, tyahan sūnyaṁ samān. Right? Meaning, right, the guru's word reaches where one dissolves into the void. Right? It dissolves the word of the guru meaning the word of that child, right? The innate self, when it produces that sound and it dissolves everything, right? So that is what he is saying. So here also you can see the same concept as Gorakh is saying, that you got to dissolve, right? Everything, even yourself, everything you got to dissolve. It will dissolve in the end. Nothing will remain except your innate nature, right? The true nature. So here it's very much similar with Kabir, right? Right? So in the same way, Kabir also explains about sunyata, right? He just says it's not nothingness only, right? So he realizes it as something living, right? Ineffable reality, the infinite reality. That's what he is talking about. So that reality, he says, can only be revealed through the Guru. And the Guru he is talking about, not the Guru outside, the inner Guru.
Child.
Yes, the child he is talking about here, okay. So very similar, you see. And even in the same way, we have Guru Nanak, another great saint, right, of the Sikhs, the Guru of the Sikhs. So here also, Kabir, like Guru Nanak was also very much influenced by Gorakh's teaching. And you can find many of his verses, where he mentions about the Gorakh Sabadi and things like that. And like sūnyaṁ is one of them, right? And then there is another one which is known as the Siddha Ghost, where he talks about all this, right? So Guru Nanak also, he just not only talks about absorbing the self, right, into profound stillness, that means the mind into the self, stealing it, but besides that he goes even further to explain what the innate self is, right, the innate nature is, what is the true nature, right, realizing the dynamic, through dynamic realization, right, that is to understand the one that is real, that is permeating all existence, right, beyond that, to realize that. So there also in the Siddha Gosta, he talks about this, and he challenges all the yogis. He tells, don't cling, right, don't cling even to the subtle spiritual self, right, because that will also become an attachment.
Even to the mystical sound in the heart.
Yes, you got to be,
The child.
because
We have to sacrifice and
so
dissolve
the child also will
in the
dissolve.
end.
The child will dissolve because that is the child. You know, the child is the consciousness, right? So that will not go because that consciousness dissolves everything. You see, right? And then that's what happens. So that's what
The effortless awareness of the divine. This
Yes.
is where we're
Yes.
dwelling.
Yes, away from the dwelling and away from the non-dual extreme, you know. That's what also Guru Nanak emphasizes on, right? And he says to have that effortless, you know, awakened awareness of the divine self, of the divine nature of what you are really. So it's very beautiful how these saints in later periods were also very, very remarkably,
Yeah,
you know, been influenced by these, right? So this, and many of these verses also, they resonate and they are very much similar with the Mahasiddha's tradition, right? And the Mahasiddhas were the ones who actually influenced the Vajrayanas, because at that time, Vajrayani was at the peak, right? So it was a huge practice at that time, everybody practiced Vajrayana, until Gorakhnath came along and debunked the Panchamakara, right? So
Okay, so not only is it similar to the Mahasiddha traditions, but also Tao.
yes,
And
Tao.
you found this beautiful poem you want to end with.
Yeah, I have a poem here which is which says everything that we have been talking about. It's a Tao poem, and it's very beautiful. So I just found it and I wanted to share it with everyone. So here's a poem, right? It's the first verse of the writings of Tao Te Ching. It's a translation, so which I'm going to read for you. So it says, a way that can be walked is not the way. Very much you can see, you know. And then it says, a name that can be named is not the name. Right? Like the innate self. And then Tao is both named and nameless. Right?
Yeah.
The basatī and the sunyã.
Beyond.
Both beyond. Right. So as named, as nameless, it is the origin of all things, right? Creation. And then as named, it is the mother of all being, the mother of creation, right? The mother creates. So as named, it is that. It's very beautiful. So a mind free of thought, merged within itself, beyond the essence of Tao, right? That's a free mind. That is seeing the innate nature, right? And then a mind filled with thought, identified with its own perceptions, beholds the mere forms of this world, right? So the mind which is in the basatī remains in the basatī because it beholds the basatī, right? So a mind, so a mind free of thought, merged with itself, beholds the essence of Tao. Right? So a mind filled with thought, identified with its own perception, beholds the mere forms of the world. So Tao and this world seem different here. Right? So Tao and this world seem different, but in truth, they are the same. right? Because the merger. So the only difference is in what we call them, right? Do we name them or not? So how deep and mysterious is this unity? How profound, how great. It is the truth beyond the truth, the hidden within the hidden. It is the path to all wonder, the gate to the essence of everything. Thank you.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.